Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to finish our last lesson on inscribed angles, and we're actually going to talk about inscribed quadrilaterals. So it's the same concept as an inscribed angle. It's a quadrilateral that has all four of its vertices somewhere on the circle. Okay, so we really only need one property in order to solve these problems here. If a quadrilateral is inscribed in a circle, then its opposite angles are supplementary, and that's the property that we're going to be using. Okay, so in this case, the opposite angles that would be supplementary would be A and C. So the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle C equals 180 degrees. And then our other opposite pair would be B and D. Measure of angle B plus measure of angle D equals 180 degrees. Okay, so we're just going to work through these examples, and then you guys are going to have an activity to complete afterwards. All right, so the measure of angle J. Angle J is opposite from angle L, so we're going to do 180 minus 92. And when I do 180 minus 92, I end up getting 88 degrees. The measure of angle K is opposite from angle M. So we have 180 minus 45, and that gives me 135 degrees. And you could always check your answers by adding up all four angles and making sure that they add to 360. All right. Next, okay, let's start with angle S. Angle S is opposite from angle Q. So I'm going to do 180 minus 93, and that gives me 87 degrees, okay? Now, we don't have P or R, so we're going to have to use some of the arcs that are labeled in order to help us with this part. So if I notice I'm looking at my angle R, angle R is right there. So if I look at the endpoints of that angle, which are Q and S, do I have the arc measure between Q and S? And the answer is yes. I could add up 90 and 126, and we get 216 degrees from Q all the way around to S. Now, remember, this is an inscribed angle, okay? Angle R is an inscribed angle. So in order to find the measure of angle R, we can just take half of its arc. So we have half of 216, which gives me 108. And then last but not least, P is opposite from R, so we could just do 180 minus 108, which gives me 72. Okay, so sometimes it won't be quite as obvious. You'll have to use the arc measures to help you, but then you can always go back to that fact that the opposite angles in an inscribed quadrilateral are supplementary. All right, so number 3 looks pretty similar. Let's start with the easy one. Let's start with W. Measure of angle W is going to be 180 minus 51, which gives me 129. All right, next it looks like we could find angle X, because from Y all the way around to W is 168 degrees. So in order to find X, I'm going to take half of 168, which gives me 84. And then finally, I'm going to do 180 minus 84, which gives me 96. Okay, so again, we're just using the labeled arcs to help us wherever necessary. Okay, number 4, we don't have any of the interior angles labeled, so we're going to have to use our knowledge of inscribed angles to help us. So let's start with D, and the reason I chose D is because I can see that from A to C, this arc, we can just add those two values together and we get 100. So that means angle D is half of 100, which gives me 50. And then since angle B is opposite from angle D, I could do 180 minus 50. That gives me 130. All right, so now I need to find either angle either angle A or angle C. I'm going to go with angle A just because I'm seeing that we have both of those arc measures that are necessary. If you wanted to find C, you could just find that last missing arc AD, but it's just easier to work with what you already have. So the measure of this arc all the way around would be 61 plus 147, which gives me 208. So I'm going to take half of 208. So we get 104 degrees. And then finally we have 180 minus 104, which gives me 76 degrees. All right, now we're going to throw some algebra in there. Again, the whole concept doesn't really change. Opposite angles are supplementary, meaning they add to 180. So I've got labels on my two opposite angles. I can add them up, set them equal to 180. Combining our like terms, we get 9x plus 63 equals 180. Subtract 63 from both sides. Oops. We get 9x equals 117, and then dividing by 9, we get x equals 13. Okay, and that's all they want is just x. We don't have to plug it back in for anything. All right, number 6, same exact concept. We've got the two opposite angles. We can add them up. Set them equal to 180. Combining like terms, we get 195 minus 5x equals 180. I'm going to subtract 195 from both sides. We get negative 5x equals negative 15. So then we get x equals positive 3, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. All right, so this one, we've got one of our angles labeled, but we don't have the opposite angle. So I'm going to need to find the measure of angle L. Or no, that's what we have labeled, the measure of angle N, sorry. So let's take a look. Here's our angle. Do I have the two arcs between? Yes, I do. So I can just add those up. And I end up getting, let's see, 226, okay? So then we need half of that, though, for the angle. So this would be 113. So now my two angles are 15x minus 23 plus 113 equals 180. Combining our like terms, we get 15x plus 90 equals 180. Subtract 90 from both sides. 15x equals 90. And then divide by 15. X is 6. All right, same idea for number 8. We need to find the measure of angle H. So I'm going to add up the two arcs between G and I. And 50 plus 96 gives me 146. But again, we only want half of that. So this angle would be 73. So I'm going to add 73 plus 12x minus 25. Set that equal to 180. Combining our like terms, we get 12x plus 48 equals 180. Subtract 48 from both sides. I get 12x equals 132. Divide by 12. X equals 11. All right, last problem. Similar concept, but now we're just going to have to plug back in and find the measure of angle Y. So they give me labels for W and Y, and those are opposite. So I can add them up and set them equal to 180. Combining our like terms, we get 18x minus 36 equals 180. I'm going to add 36 to both sides. I get 18x equals 216. And then dividing both sides by 18, we get x equals 12. But that's not our final answer because they want the measure of angle y, which is going to be 13 times 12 minus 37. And the measure of angle y is 119 degrees. Okay? All right, so that is the end of our lessons on inscribed angles. So now what I want you guys to do is you are going to work on the second page of the document that's attached, and that's going to be what you're submitting for today, okay? So I do want you guys to attach some work in order to receive full credit. Some of it might be as simple as, 180 divided by 2 or 96 divided by 2. So wherever you need to do a calculation for, please just make sure you write it down. It's kind of like a puzzle. It's really fun. So just make sure you complete that and get that turned in. As always, let me know if you guys have any questions. Have a great day.